Good afternoon. My name is Jessica Dean, and I am the Director of Marketing with AIM Transportation Solutions. Thank you so much for joining us today. So I'm going to give you a brief introduction before we go ahead and get started. And let me just check and make sure everybody is admitted that needs to be. And we are good. So emissions regulations are shifting the landscape of America's supply chain. The affordability and availability of low emissions and alternatively powered commercial vehicles is on the rise. But this leaves many fleet operators scratching their heads. How do we make the change, and when do we need to do it? For AIM customers, we say, lean on us. We have you covered, and we do. AIM works as a consultative partner with each of our customers. We look at your operations holistically, and we advise you on what the best transportation solution to keep you compliant and maximize your business efficiency and profitability is. But everyone needs to stay informed on how these regulations change and will affect them. And that's why we're here. Today we have Uma. She's Cummins Director of Product Strategy, and Mark, who is Cummins Director of Business Development, on the line. They're going to bring you their vast knowledge and years of experience to break down all of the complexities of the regulations and forecast the future of commercial vehicle power. A couple of things to note. We are recording the session today. Tomorrow, I'll send out an email with a link to the recording, as well as a PDF version of the presentation. And the email will also have my contact information, and it'll have Uma and Mark's contact information. You can feel free to follow up with any of us with any questions you have on the content of today's presentation. This webinar is one in a monthly series of webinars that AIM hosts. The subject matter of the series varies, but we consistently aim to provide valuable information to our customers, be it regulatory like today, driver safety, DOT compliance, the list goes on. We hope to see you on more of our webinars in the future. So, all right, with that being said, I'm going to pass the mic over to Uma and Mark. They will open up the floor for questions at the end of their presentation, so please hold all of your questions until that time. Once they're done presenting, you're able to unmute yourself and ask questions. You can also type questions into the chat function, and I'll read them out to the presenters. So Uma, whenever you are ready, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Jessica. Yep. And I really like, the Q&A portion of some of these discussions. I'm really looking forward to that. We'll try to, move fast enough that we allow for that. All right. So I'm Uma Vajapeyazula. I lead the product strategy and management at our Cummins, headquarters here in Columbus, Indiana. And I've pretty much been all my career with Cummins. I really enjoy, solving the challenging problems that this industry faces. And there's more to come that we're going to talk about that we all need to collaborate on. All right. So the topics we want to talk about today is the regulatory landscape. I'll touch a little bit upon what we are seeing in EPA emissions, carb emissions, the ACT regulations that are specific to carbon adopting states, and then what states are actually thinking about, adopting these regulations. And there's a little bit of nuance around clean idle, which, traditionally was associated with California, but it might get a little complicated if products divert. So we'll touch on that a little bit. And then rest of the presentation, we want to focus on what is Cummins' crystal ball with all of these, and what synergies can we leverage with our experience about the products, experience about the market, needs of the customers. How can we help the customer base navigate this energy transition that's in front of all of us, right? So we're going to talk about advanced diesels, alternate fuel, zero emission powertrains, everything that Cummins is working on. All right. So to get started, in my world in product strategy, life used to be a lot simpler. It used to be meet the needs of the customer, create the products that do the work at most economical ways, good TCO, and then meet the regulations, right? So it was never easy, but feels like that used to be more straightforward. Now, as we look at the future, it's changing a little bit. We definitely have more stringent regulations coming at us, like you see on the left side here, significant reductions in NOx, stringencies in greenhouse gases going up. And there is this right side of the shift that's happening where more and more companies are becoming conscious of their ability to operate sustainably, right? So it's called environmental and sustainability goals for many companies. Cummins has one, we call it Planet 2050, and many of our partners have similar goals. And what we're starting to see is that some of these goals are probably requiring faster transition in lower greenhouse gas emissions than sometimes what the regulations may even require, right? So that's why it starts to play a bigger role. And then obviously, if you've opened your news channel, any format, paper or electronic, you've seen the electrification trends, right? So this is not just North America, this is a global trend that's happening with the intent to move all of us towards zero emission future. In Cummins, as part of our Planet 2050 sustainability goals, we have a very specific emphasis on our product-based emissions, Scope 3 emissions as it's called. We call this initiative Destination Zero. And you will see throughout our material how we're consciously thinking about moving our products and customers towards the zero emission future, but fully acknowledging that we need a practical way of helping the industry move in that direction. Unfortunately, we don't have the perfect solutions available that are zero emissions that we can turn the switch on and say, hey, let's all go, right? So it's going to be a little complicated. We try to call it messy middle, that we have to navigate, and but with full intention that we will play a leadership role in moving us all along that journey of Destination Zero. So getting into regulations, I want to make sure we're all talking about the same things. There's a lot of nuances coming our way. So the easier way to think about this is in two different buckets. There is criteria emissions. When we talk about NOx, you largely hear NOx. That is in that criteria emissions bucket. And states like California have non-attainment zones. Smog creates issues with ozone layer, health of the public. So they have some specific goals that they have to meet in their plans that requires them to drive NOx reductions. So that is not necessarily an issue everywhere. It's an issue everywhere, but maybe the level of criticality of lowering that is sometimes regional. There's a bigger issue on the right side here, greenhouse gas. You must have heard global warming, climate change, all of this falls under this greenhouse gas bucket where the planet is warming. It depends on who you talk to, but there's a large consensus built with the scientific community that we all have to take action towards the greenhouse gas. And regulations have been tightening the belt on the greenhouse gas, especially EPA, and we anticipate more to come in that space as well. Obviously, there is zero emission future that we all desire. Some of the Carb ACT regulations are trying to push that a little bit, stay ahead of the game. But that's the end goal. And zero emissions to us means zero in everything, zero in criteria, zero in greenhouse gas. And sometimes the conversation can get, focused on greenhouse gas, but we are focused on all of these. So our crystal ball, long-term, what we think might happen. Near-term 2020s, definitely we're all going to see this NOx reduction-based, regulatory landscape products that try to achieve these ultra-low NOx regulations, 75 to 90% reduction. We're going to deal with divergent regulations a little bit. CARB is, more aggressive right now than where EPA is, and EPA is also thinking about lowering regulations, but we haven't seen yet a scenario where all of that aligns near term. Goal will be, it's really good for the market and us to have aligned regulations nationwide, and we're continuing to advocate that piece as well. There is electrification sales mandates that's coming through what we call the Carb ACT regulations. And then there is also a fleet regulation that's under the work. So there's you will start to see uptick of a need to have electrified sales in the market through regulations. And then as we get into 2030s, there is going to be more emphasis on greenhouse gas. We hope that the NOx piece of it will stabilize in the 2020s. And then there'll be a bigger initiatives around greenhouse gas as EPA contemplates their phase 3 regulations. And we also expect there'll be more nationwide incentives to help move the nation along the electrification journey or zero emission journey. And then by 2040s, we do think scale is achievable. I think this whole period in between late 20s through early 2040s is what we try to call the messy middle, because all these different regulations have to settle down and the true future technologies that enable a zero emission future have to mature. So that's kind of what drives our crystal ball to say this middle is going to be a little bit messy on how we navigate, but we think by 2040s, later 2040s, definitely scale can be achieved with zero emission technologies. So more near term, the 2020s, as we talked about, this is the landscape of scenarios that we're thinking through. So EPA, today we have nationwide regulations in NOx, in the criteria emissions, right? So it's 0.2 grams per horsepower hour, EPA and CARB, they're aligned. EPA drives the greenhouse gas regulations on top of this. But as we look at 2024, 27, 2031, there is divergence in that criteria regulations. So CARB is definitely leading the pack in the 2024 with their omnibus rule, and they have a more stringent step coming up in 2027 as part of that. And EPA has announced their intent to lower NOx as part of their 2027 regulations. They will decide on where they land by end of this year. And we are working with them to help guide what are more practical regulations for this time frame. So the technologies are reliable, durable for the customers, and economical, right? So that's the balance that we always have to bring when we're navigating the regulations. So these are scenarios that EPA is looking at. We are anticipating. One thing that does stand out here is I don't see a nationwide alignment yet, right? So maybe by 2031, when everything goes to 0.02, but 0.02 is also not very practical with today's understanding of our technology. So we're pushing back on regulators to say, lower NOx, we're fully supportive. We're going to help innovate and drive those technologies, but there's also boundaries on how soon some of these technologies can mature. So on those regulations, there is definitely another layer of complication where it's not just about California because it's CARB. There are other states that follow CARB regulations. And this is our understanding today, that there is 2024, where we have California and Oregon talking about the same omnibus low NOx regulations. In 25, Massachusetts has said they will start adopting that regulation as well. No other state has confirmed that they're going to adopt it, but we're tracking some of these states that you can see in 25 and 26. One thing to note is states have to express an intent to adopt at least 2 years ahead of time before they will adopt. And Pennsylvania, it's like a big state, high volume registrations. They've said they'll make a decision by July 2023, which means they will target an earliest adoption of mid-25, right? So we don't know if they're adopting yet, but that's when mid next year, we'll know more where they're leaning. But these are some of the states we're tracking. There is the CARB ACT rule, which I'll talk about in a minute here, which also has a group of states who've expressed intent that they want to adopt the more stringent regulations earlier than where nationwide moves. So as the states navigate this and CARB thinks about a divergent regulation, one thing that we're starting to see may become challenging for the customers is how do you navigate the clean idle requirements? So some folks at least think clean idle is a California clean idle regulation, and that's where it's required. What we understand is more than California many states recognize the clean idle sticker. And many municipalities, there's jurisdictional laws on idling that may be slightly different, but most of them recognize the clean idle as a good go-to when they're trying to enforce. So what will become challenging when the regulations diverge is this is not just an optional sticker on a same product. Now the products probably start becoming different in 2024. So then you will have to know if you need the clean idle sticker or not ahead of time. And you can still drive through California, for example, without the sticker, but you cannot idle. You will be limited to 5 minutes or there'll be penalties. So if you know that your operations are going to require this clean idle sticker, the biggest shift we're trying to think through is maybe the lead time will be severely impacted. You will have to know how many you need that are California specific while you're placing the order board. And if you go in late, then your availability will be delayed as well, right? So that's something to think through. When the products are different and when you place the order, you will need to know where these products are going. So we're continuing to advocate that this is not easy. Most of our customers operate nationwide, and divergent regulation, different products, and not having an alignment on idling regulations is going to become very challenging for the base. The one other regulation to be aware of, there is the Carb Advanced Clean Trucks regulation. And then another one that's in the works is an Advanced Clean Fleet regulation. The ACT is a little bit more firm than the ACF. You can see the main target that California is pushing for is 100% of vehicles, all new medium duty and heavy duty vehicles, to be zero emissions by 2050. And then interim target of 30% to be zero emissions by 2030. And again, these are sales mandates. These are not emission kind of regulations. So these are more of the, OEMs are impacted by these regulations, that they have to, guarantee these percentages, as you can see in this table. And then when it comes to the advanced clean fleet, fleet purchases will have to adhere by a certain percentage of electrified or zero emission powertrains as well. You can see this is the MOU I talked about, Memorandum of Understanding. There are at least 15 states who have expressed that they will want to adopt this. It does not automatically mean they are adopting. This is just they've expressed intent, and they will make their decisions, just like the prior slide that we saw, at different timelines. So no, that was the summary of all the different regulation elements that we're tracking. Obviously, ideally, we have a zero emission solution that's capable, reliable, mature. There's infrastructure, like a battery electric vehicle or a fuel cell, then problem solved, right? Let's all move to that solution. I think the challenge, obviously, is the architectures and technologies available today have limitations. Battery electric vehicles, they come with infrastructure needs, they come with payload trade-offs, and how far can you really go, right? That becomes the most important question. So there are some applications, return to base, maybe urban applications, travel less than 100 miles a day, where that might be very easy, right? Like school buses, transit buses are good examples where they may find a faster path to an electrified vehicle than, regional haul trucks that go 300 miles a day, or, long haul that's pretty far off to meet the needs of that segment. So one thing that this is going to drive is somewhat of divergence in what works for one application may not work for another application. And then there's also divergence in what state and where these regulations are needed. So it starts to, fracture the market a little bit on what solution works where. And that's really what the messy middle we're talking about is all about, right? That no one perfect solution. We're going away from that diesel, ubiquitous solution that we have today to different solutions that are going to work for different people. So this is exactly why Cummins is very focused in alternate fuels right now. We think they will play a bigger role. Hydrogen internal combustion engines are very attractive because you have very familiar assets and powertrains, serviceability training that comes with an internal combustion engine. And if can burn clean with hydrogen with no carbon to emit, that's a big deal, right? So we're looking at natural gas, which inherently is lower greenhouse gas emissions by a step change order of magnitude, right? I think 16% at least. And when you use it on renewable natural gas, actually you are carbon negative. The carbon intensity, scale that these fuels get measured on, RNG is the only fuel that's actually negative. Every time you use that fuel, you actually, cleaning up methane that would have otherwise been in the environment without the usage. So very interesting dynamics with some of these alternate fuels, and we think they can play a good role as we try to push forward on lower carbon future. And this is where Cummins, strongly believes with our Destination Zero journey, that we're not just going to wait for, battery electrics to get perfect, infrastructure to be available everywhere, fuel cells to be available. We're actually going to take a leadership role and say, decarbonization starts today. We're going to do our best to bring the right products that'll actually make a difference and not just wait for that perfect solution. And we think it's a long road, right? So that's what you will start to see in our product portfolio, that we're investing very heavily in our advanced diesel products. We don't like compromising power, as we like to talk about it. For the sake of regulations and, all of these challenges, we don't want to short circuit what our customers need to get their work done. We're actually looking at increased power density across our diesel portfolio. So advanced diesels that meet more stringent regulations and also bring along these alternate fuels, like natural gas and hydrogen internal combustion engines, gasoline and propane in our medium duty. They all are going to find a place with the diverse applications that we have in the market. So for the 0.05, 75% NOx reduction as early as 2024, we're investing in our 15-liter diesel that can perform at that level. We're introducing our brand new 15-liter natural gas. Today, the highest displacement we have is a 12-liter, and we're going to bring a 15-liter. And that is game-changing because now you can think about natural gas in line haul applications, right? So in addition to the existing portfolio of our L9 natural gas and the B67. So gasoline and propane. Today, gasoline serves the lower power needs of the market. Diesel serves the higher power needs. And there's never been a good trade-off where we can say gasoline works for the higher power needs and torque needs. That's really what we're changing with our gasoline and propane. We think Cummins is uniquely positioned to be able to do this. We are building on our legacy, durable, reliable diesel platforms, and we're going to bring forward our gasoline solutions that are going to perform just like the diesels. They're going to bring the durability, they're going to bring the power. Across the board, the theme you will see is that we're bringing the power of the diesel, the durability of the diesel in these alternate fuels that is lacking today. And how are we going to do it? Like when there's so many different products to be created and invested in, integrated into vehicles, it's very challenging, right? So when you're doing everything, maybe you're not doing anything. That's really what we want to avoid. So this is kind of our, tricks up our sleeve. We are very intentionally architecting our next generation of platforms to be multi-fuel capable. We are going to make sure the same platform that the diesel, the advanced diesel will come in, can also have a natural gas variant, can come in a hydrogen internal combustion engine variant. Largely the differences are going to be, in the cylinder head fuel system for obvious fuel system differences. But neck below, as we like to call it, these engines will be very identical. So service, parts availability, how it integrates into a vehicle, they'll all start looking very familiar so that this energy transition can be even more easier, right? So this is our strategy on how we intend to bridge this messy middle. And we really think Cummins is uniquely positioned to be able to do it. There isn't a whole lot of our competitors who have this kind of scale globally, the legacy of reliable products that we can build on to bring all these alternate fuels. And, like I said, we don't like to compromise power. We need to make sure our customers are able to get their work done in an economical way with the most stringent, meeting the most stringent emissions, right? We like to do that early. We pride in it to bring the most stringent emissions products early. And we're very motivated to decarbonize, right? Decarbonization starts today is what our Destination Zero strategy is all about. So with that, I think I'm going to hand over to Mark, if you want to talk us through how the customers will experience this.
Thanks, Uma. So just building off of what Uma was just talking about with the fuel agnostic strategy, we think Cummins is uniquely positioned for this. And I put this slide up really just to try and help articulate it. We're focusing in many markets, many segments, and you can look at the images. But if you think about it from a heavy duty truck perspective, we have heavy duty truck engines and applications operating globally. So we have the worldwide scale as well as the focus and knowledge we're building on that. And you can build that down even from medium duty, thinking about the same thing, medium duty truck, but it also finds its way into bus applications, off-highway applications, including school buses, forestry applications, agricultural, construction. So we start expanding out our portfolio where we're reaching into many, many different products. And, then we have light duty products pulling into off-highway, but also thinking beyond engines. And I'm going to also touch a bit on our new power business, so our alternative technologies on battery electric and fuel cell in a slide or two as well. So if we can move on. Within that, and we just alluded to the different powertrains that we're offering and how we look at them. We use this slide not as an all-inclusive slide, but a slide to try and help think through how these different technologies, and we talk the messy middle very frequently, they all have different areas that allow them to position themselves strongly. They lead themselves to different applications that can better position one technology versus the other. And inevitably, all technologies have challenges, whether it be something along price, timing, fuel availability, even from fuel availability being infrastructure, whether that's even electrons, thinking about battery electric products, but also then is it scalable from a customer base? So from our perspective, again, having this broad customer base, global by nature, we're able to leverage that to try and help us maximize the opportunity for these technologies as well. And on the left, you just sort of see the highway we're looking at them between different technologies. Everything Uma just showed, it's really just adding in battery electric, hydrogen fuel cell, and we had above hydrogen in general, which is also thinking about hydrogen ICE products that we will be implementing. Next one. I wanted to spend a couple of minutes just talking through really the some of these key technologies, trying to help build that picture. In particular, Uma was talking earlier on about the propane octane engine. We're very excited about this product. It's delivering, as she said, our sort of target as we think about our core customers and trying to ensure we're delivering this diesel-like durability, diesel-like performance. So we're really trying to hone in on that from the product. And you can see on the right of this slide the torque curves that we're targeting with this product. We expect to achieve. So it's really starting to raise the bar and give us something that's unique in the industry. We get to do this by building on our legacy, the 6.7 engine, our B series platform. We've had it in production for over 40 years now. There's over 13 million engines in production. It's a significant number for us and experience for us to be able to build on and expand into these other alternate fuels technologies. But we also see it, the way we're doing this, it's going to be a first in the industry. We're going to build it this way. We do it differently. We're going to have a turbocharged spark-ignited platform for both of these technologies or fuels, and targeting that to make sure that we're still delivering that diesel durability and performance, diesel-like durability and performance becomes key to making sure this product still slots in and works for our customers. I should also add, by the nature of octane and propane as a product, it comes with some benefits in all of the applications that we've got at the bottom there. But we are also targeting this to have a lower TCO. A lot of the renewable fuels and products that we're looking at, we see a TCO advantage that starts leaning in on these products beyond just having a product that will supplement diesel. It actually starts to help driving and justifying itself beyond also the carbon reduction improvements that it can offer. Go to the next slide. So the other one I also wanted to cover on, so, we have this full list of products and trying to think about optimizing time today. We picked a couple on here. We've just made some big announcements with our X15N. When we think about this product, it's something that we're very proud of. It's a new opportunity that we see it's opening up. Again, start seeing that what this X15N is really leveraging is trying to provide a diesel alternative. It has diesel-like torque. So we're trying to really be able to offer this up for line haul duty cycles. By the nature of natural gas, we can also have this as a renewable natural gas solution. Again, we think about path to zero emissions becomes very important and carbon negative, depending on where you're registered for this. So it actually has a big upside from a carbon reduction standpoint. And this is really the first big bore natural gas powertrain we're seeing. So Cummins is introducing something again unique and industry first. We see it's going to be able to meet CARB 24, 27, as well as the future EPA NOx regulations. So it's a significant life of this product when we're introducing it as well. And what we're sort of covering with this product and some of the learning that we've learned about our natural gas experience of the products in the past, we've been implementing a lot of the fixes and improvements, making this a clean sheet design, picking it up from natural gas as Uma presented on the fuel agnostic strategy and building up the engine platform that way. But we're being pretty unique in how this is coming around as well. This is going to be a compact 15-litre. We're targeting this to fit where the current X12N, ISX12N, sorry, fits today. We see it fitting there for 13-litre chassis installations as well. We've just recently made an announcement with PACCAR that it will be introduced into their chassis. And we see this as, again, a significant opportunity in reducing carbon emissions. And the key as we start thinking about all of these products, before I move into battery electric and fuel cell and the other technologies, Uma alluded to this earlier on. What we see today is adopting these new technologies helps us reduce carbon emissions. So we're trying to build out a portfolio that allows customers to be able to support this. We've actually done some recent studies and been quite vocal in presenting this at different shows about how we see the potential of offering these technologies and these technologies being utilized rather than effectively waiting for zero emission vehicles to be available. To try and put it in, and we've got some good graphs that are out in the marketplace or out in the public domain. We see the opportunity of being able to adopt these technologies as potentially releasing about 1.4 gigatons of the burden of carbon intensity that we have out globally. So it becomes such a big player to adopt these technologies early. If you're driven by scope 3 emissions or you're being driven by some of the larger partners that you may have, having these technologies can help you also meet greenhouse gas reductions for them, meeting requirements, and it's going to become a driver and something that more and more customers we see them either driving for it or being driven to find alternate solutions. So we wanted to try and sort of highlight the octane and propane options today as two good new technologies coming that we think will meet a lot of your or drive some interest for you to follow up on. I think if we can move to the next slide, Uma, we sort of make a bit of a transition now into our electrified power, for which we have really principal technologies, battery electric and fuel cell, and we've just made a recent addition to our family with Meritor. So I'm just wanted to talk through some of this. Our electrified power product, thank you. Actually, I'm trying to split it out really to cover EV, so battery electric and fuel cell here, and using this slide to try and articulate how we do a lot of work with various segments, similar to what we were showing where Cummins is active today. And the key for this slide is trying to show that actually we've been in production for quite some time with some products with battery electric systems, both Bluebird school buses at the top and Gillig at in the middle portion there, transit buses. Been in productions for many years. We have almost 1,000 units in production today. We do a lot of demonstration work with partners to try and help demonstrate either battery electric or fuel cell technology in different duty cycles, different missions, trying to look at different chassis as well to try and work out the installations and support from an OEM development. And what we see just coming up on the screen here are just some recent announcements that we've also made. From a battery electric standpoint, terminal tractors, Kalmar and Tyco, recent announcements, and they're actually in production and available as of this year with sort of ramp up volume, finding its way into full production next year. We have Powertrains in those, and they've been at various shows throughout this year, and we'll see them appearing in exhibitions and shows next year with Cummins Powertrains as we start seeing them being promoted and launched further. Likewise, in a medium duty truck standpoint, from a battery electric standpoint, we have Isuzu. We've announced a partnership with them on prototypes. So with the Isuzu prototype truck, we're actually putting it out in the fleet. It's been deployed now. We're now building on second sets of these medium duty truck chassis with a range that meets what we believe to be the market requirement for that size of truck. What it does mean is with battery electric, you can adjust battery sizes. There are trade-offs between them. So we've been spending a lot of the time with these demos learning about the technology, proving out our service capabilities, and making sure that when we put these units in the field, we have the same coverage that's expected for diesel today and the same capabilities. And finally, the one that came up at the bottom is a recent announcement that came out at the ACT show in earlier this year. And it's on our fuel cell collaboration. So we've announced a collaboration with Freightliner on fuel cells in North America as well. So we're trying to use the same technologies where possible, building on our platforms and supporting both the ultimate zero emission vehicle strategy, but also making sure we have these technologies that can bridge and support and reduce carbon as we proceed through, as Uma's been rephrasing it, and we hear it often, the messy middle. So we have these technologies to provide a full portfolio and a full suite for that. And I think just going to the penultimate slide, I wanted to also address, move to this last one, is within Cummins, I mean, it's just recently happened, but now Meritor is part of the Cummins group as well. So part of the Cummins family, I wanted to make sure that we didn't ignore this, that we talk about where Cummins has battery electric presence today through its battery electrical fuel cell systems. Meritor is a big complement to the Cummins organization. It already has numerous customers installed within its EV, electrical vehicle space. We see some of them here, but what you see is that, you know, through their e-axle and other components, Meritor's additional product and already in production opportunities within medium duty, heavy duty present greater opportunity of experience Cummins product, but also for a feel for how Cummins' broader product portfolio can stretch across these OEMs as we collaborate with OEMs as we do with every product we have today. We just move to the next slide. It's really just a summary. I mean, and I think we're trying to pull this together. We want to be the partner, we want to be the supplier. You see on the right, every one of the technologies we've been talking about today. We're positioning ourselves as a global technology leader. We're leveraging our global footprint to do something we think that makes us very unique in our space, and we think it adds the value that our customers need. We have a broad portfolio of power solutions, and we think we're the only customer, the only supplier that really has the knowledge and capability to be able to deliver on that globally. So I think that's our last slide, and now we're going to hand over to questions. Thank you, everybody.
Uma, is there anything else you want to share with us before we open up the floor for questions?
No, I think we're ready. I think this is the part that I really enjoy the most, and so does Mike. Yeah.
Well, wonderful. We already have a couple that have come through. One came through, and I don't know who the question asker is, but what charging amperage is there going to be for yard spotter electric?
Now, that's a great, very specific question. I probably could find it while we're on the call here. It is so both with Kalmar and Tyco, they have within their system, they have defined charging parameters that you can utilize, and they're speccing them through the Kalmar and Tyco program. We could actually find it, but I think those are probably questions that we'd better put to the OEM actually than ourselves.
Okay, and then our next question is from AIM's own Dan Fleming. What size at Isuzu are you partnering with? Only the 26,000 pound units or smaller? Question mark.
Yeah, it's a Class 6 F-Series chassis that we made the announcement with Isuzu today. So that's what we've deployed. It's actually a chassis based on some success that we had with the NAC Feed Run on Less show, which utilized a different chassis with a Class 6 box truck. It's the same powertrain. You know, we're able to package it within the F-Series Isuzu as Class 6. There is scope, it could go into the Class 7, but it's just not where we think with the packaging and the range today, it lends itself immediately for, but we are in discussion also about whether Class 7 could be an option as well.
Okay, another one. Do you have an idea of what the current product will cost with the carb option in the near future?
Yeah, I can answer that one. I think it's it's not finalized. We're working through the numbers, and those products are in development right now. I think directionally they're definitely going to be more expensive, right? And that's why we're not necessarily thinking an expensive diesel is the only way to do it, like TCO sensitivity, fuel price stability through our natural gas, and gasoline, right? So all of these are going to be interesting, good alternatives in addition to the diesel that'll probably get more expensive as the regulations tighten.
Okay. One more. Should we look to purchase one of these vehicles now?
Is it a specific to electrified or more the diesel, other powertrains?
That was the only thing the question stated, but I would guess that, is there going to be a rush that people can get ahead of with maybe the carb option or electric, or any advice on either?
Yeah, maybe I'll start with the internal combustion engine, and Mark, maybe you can comment on the electrified as well. So Cummins today has natural gas product offering in production. We have a 12-liter natural gas, a 9-liter natural gas, and a 6.7 natural gas. All of those are in production, in addition to the diesel products, which are the 0.2 NOx, the left side that you saw in one of our charts. So so the 0.2 diesels, natural gas, they're all available today to be purchased. The gasoline, the propane, and the 15-liter natural gas, we're all targeting in the 24-25 timeframe. And we're working through the maturity of those products. They're going to be tested with some select customers here shortly in the coming year. But that we're targeting it to align with the regulatory need when they become more necessary as well, Jessica.
Okay.
And I'll tackle it for the EV side. And I see there was some sort of side commentary in the screen there as well, which actually is quite relevant, I think. I mean, the idea that the simple answer would be yes, it would be great to buy battery electric or fuel cell vehicles today. Availability is going to be a significant challenge in trying to obtain these, whether it be a Cummins or anybody for that matter today. And I think the chat window, when I see it, the people are talking also about some of the challenges with infrastructure. I think your biggest challenge today is, if you are going to drive serious energy or require serious energy for charging and operating a fleet, discussion with infrastructure providers and building up that infrastructure capability is likely to be a requirement. I think it's well reported, if you take on more than 5 to 10 battery electric trucks, depending on your operation and how you're looking to charge, you're likely to strain anything that you have, and you'll start creating some serious challenges on infrastructure. It can be anywhere up to 18 months, 2 years as a standard for building that infrastructure. The truck availability may be less of your problem than being able to charge it in the first place, but that can be where it starts lending itself to other options, hydrogen, other than, again, infrastructure being hydrogen availability. You actually can get hydrogen, as with natural gas, brought in on site or at a location and operate a vehicle. Again, though, you'd need to think through both the initial cost, both battery electric and fuel cell today. Costs are high on batteries. Fuel cells, it's just an economics game, really. Volume is low. Over time, that will come down. But you've got to start looking at it more than beyond just a battery electric truck or a fuel cell truck. Infrastructure becomes a serious consideration before just investing in a vehicle.
And Mark, do you see the follow-up question, lifespan of the battery, and what do you do with a spent battery?
Good questions. So lifespan of a battery varies. We're designing batteries to meet a vehicle life. Now, the definition of vehicle life across applications also changes. But one of the things we're finding is battery life can be very dependent on how you charge it and how the battery is operated. So a lot of it comes down to being stipulated on how we're charging, and charge rates, and we talk about the amount of charging energy also defines this. So in general, yes, batteries will be designed to support vehicle life, and that will at least sort of marginally cover that answer. I think there's still time with the technology to mature, to really start stipulating across trucks, for instance, where that life sits, but 7 years is easily something we've been looking at across batteries. But I think then the other question on second life, there are many projects that are being undertaken that we're partnering with many institutions for and universities, as there are many private companies and other companies that are trying to look at options for second life on batteries. I think that there are strong cases for energy storage, because the battery may no longer be suitable for driving or operating a truck from a life perspective, but it still is able to hold a significant amount of energy and can be suitable for energy storage. There are companies that also claim they can strip down batteries and recycle a significant portion of it. I think over time, those will be refined and become more viable than they are today. But from a Cummins perspective, we're spending a lot of time and effort with various institutions trying to look at all of these channels, try and maximize a second life.
Got it. And Pete asked, how far away, okay, ooh, questions are popping up left and right. How far away are we from having long-haul fuel cell trucks? From what I've heard, the range is currently incredibly low.
So I think in general, in long-haul fuel cell trucks, there is a range that's achievable today, and it's known to be achievable up to about 300 miles. As we start seeing fuel cells, and that's with, you use a 700 bar gaseous hydrogen fuel cell is your fuel. Fuel cell efficiency and products will allow you to start hitting 300 miles, maybe even you can get up to 400. We have a path, and I think we within Cummins have a product that we know will hit 500 miles. The challenge is you just don't need it today because it's not ready to be adopted. So we're going through several iterations of development, which culminates ultimately to that announcement with Daimler Truck North America, DTNA, where the announcement has us set to actually start putting fuel cells in trucks that will be capable. Next year, we start doing some limited field testing, but really engineering testing and validation of our next generation of fuel cell. We're actually going to have them out with some select fleets. That's 2024-25 timeframe, and start making, so they become available on the road at that point, but we're going to have to be select on how many we have available and where they're utilized. But we see that by 26, 27, the fuel cell at a 500-mile range is absolutely something that will be out there in the marketplace.
Okay, got it. I think this is an UMA question. On the gasoline engine, what is the mileage life compared to diesel?
The durability we're targeting just like diesel, right? So it will be the life, our diesel engines today are known to outlast the vehicles in life, right? So that's, the same philosophy, the same, platform on which we're building the gasoline product. So we're, proving it right now. I think within a year, at least 2 million miles total we would have had on these vehicles. So we're trying to test those goals and actually get numbers made visible before that product hits the market. But yeah, I don't expect anything less than the performance of the diesel today.
Got it. And this is the last question I have as of now. Are there projected cost increases for the 2024 emission standards? Is there a chance that the standards will be delayed due to the supply chain shortages? And it seems like many emissions components seems to be back ordered recently.
Yeah, that's a very important question. And I was going to say something about that, and I'm glad that question came up. So there is a couple of issues with the Carb regulations. You probably heard there's been a lawsuit by the EMA to push back on the timing of the regulation. It doesn't have the standard 4-year lead time that EPA requires them to. And EPA has also come forward and said, hey, we're evaluating our decision on this waiver. So both of those and in general, some of the conversations we've had with the agency on availability, limited availability of products, right? We don't have beyond Cummins, right? There is the market, which has very limited offerings for that CARB stringent regulation. So we're pushing that conversation as an industry group, as a trustworthy partner with the agencies to say, 24-25 seems too soon for these stringent regulations to come in. Maybe the better timing is, closer to 26, and also use that as an opportunity to find common ground for national regulations if possible, right? So all of those conversations are happening, very realistic possibilities. that the regulations don't take effect Jan 24, but that's somewhat speculative right now without further regulatory confirmation there. So we're getting ready in case that's the option. Definitely the product availability for some of the adopting states and California improve near term, but we don't think the regulations are going away completely. It may be just a matter of a delay. And just a part of the cost question, I think diesels will definitely, need to add technology and content to be able to meet these stringent emissions, and that naturally drives the price to be higher, right? And some of the biggest battles internally that we've been working through is how do you not make them prohibitive in cost? And how do you bring technologies that are proven, reliable, and not just technology for the sake of technology, right? So we've been providing that industry voice to push back where needed to say, let's not push technology too fast. Maybe 0.02 diesels are even possible. I'm confident Cummins will demonstrate it in a test cell. But how do you make sure they're cost effective, durable, reliable, can work 1,000,000 miles on a truck, right? I mean, that's the philosophy with which we're pushing back some of the timing of these regulations. We truly think Cummins will be an important partner to help drive low emission products. And diesels have a very long road, 10, 15 plus years before we will see any kind of big shifts for our customer base.
So on the gasoline engine, will the mile per gallon be comparable to diesel, or do you have any preliminary information? I know gas is around $1 less per gallon. So what to get a feel for the operational cost will the difference be?
Yeah, no, good question. I think comparable TCO, Mark, is that a fair statement to say for the gasoline? I think that's what we have computed so far with our math, given the fuel price differences. I think there is an aspect of maintenance that becomes easier from an after treatment perspective, where diesels require the DEF, have the SCRs, and you don't need those additional technologies. And the regenerations are not as complex as the diesel portion of it. So maintenance becomes easier. Overall TCO, I would still say maybe comparable.
And then the next question is DEF here to stay, or will it go away over time with your new motors?
DEF is here to stay for a little bit, as long as we're continuing to lower NOx regulations, right? So that's the NOx regulations is where DEF, the SCRs play a big role. That is a key technology. So the more stringent regulations in NOx actually drive higher focus and need for DEF and SCR technologies in that space. So until we find a reasonable alternative powertrains in diesel powertrains, they'll continue to play a role. And obviously, when you're thinking about natural gas and gasoline, you don't need to worry about DEF on those powertrains.
Got it. And Dan wanted me to note EMA is Engine Manufacturer Association, just if anyone missed that.
That's right. Yeah.
Yes. All right. Those are all the questions I have. If no one else has any questions, I just want to say thank you so much to Uma and Mark for your presentation today. Understanding emissions regulations can be frustrating for all of us, but you did a great job of clarifying a lot of lingering gray areas. So thank you guys both so much. I just want to say to the group, now more than ever, having a leasing partner like AIM is your safest bet when dealing with the complexity of these emissions regulations. AIM partners with the experts like those at Cummins, like Uma and Mark, so that we have the best information and the best equipment to support our customers and their operations, to ensure they're not only operational and compliant, but efficient and profitable. We deal with the messy middle, so you don't have to. And, Uma kept talking about that messy middle. Let us handle that for you. So the depth of our strategic partnership with Cummins, with our OEMs, and with our customers is the foundation that AIM as an organization relies on. It's how we build success for ourselves. It's how we build success for our customers. And it's how we maintain our sanity as this storm of emissions regulations kind of swirls around us all. So if you'd like to talk more about what AIM can do for you, or your current customer situation with AIM, I'd love to talk to you. My contact information will be in the email that comes out tomorrow. I'll also include Uma and Mark's contact information. So if you have any specific questions that weren't addressed today or anything that you think of after the fact, you're welcome to reach out to them and talk to the experts. So it was so great hearing from you both today. So thank you all for your time, and I hope everyone has a wonderful Wednesday afternoon. Thanks, Uma. Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, everybody.
We'll talk to you soon. Thanks, Wendy.
You're welcome.